Hello, everybody. Welcome to Notorious Momz, the podcast. I am here with my very special guest, Mozo. He's on the show today. So, how you doing? Introduce yourself. Let the people know what you do, who you are.
What's up? What's up, everybody? First off, thank you so much for having me on the show. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be here. Um, I go by the name of Mozo, the real Mozo, and yeah, man, I do a little bit of everything. I have my own podcast. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a human. So I'm out here living and surviving. But yeah, that's what I do, and like I said, I'm happy to be here and let's talk. Let's get it popping.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show. I see that you are a dad. I've seen your videos. I love and I commented on your setup in the back. I see your kids. They're so beautiful. God bless.
Thank you.
And I've seen your wife on like the lives and stuff, which is super dope. I think that's like really cool that you also incorporate your son. I saw the last live that he was on. I thought that was dope. You know, get the kids like aware of like what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, they need to understand, right? Because like, if they see it and they know it's possible, like, because they see it all over YouTube and all these other people doing all this stuff, but like they can see dad and mom could do that too. Like, like we can have our platform, and we may not have a million viewers right now yet,
Right.
but we're still speaking we're still using our voice as and using it as power and strength, and I think that's really what I want to show my kids, that your voice matters, your opinion matters, and don't be afraid to say what you have to say.
Definitely. I'm all for that too. I have two kids of my own, very different ages. I have a almost 17-year-old. His birthday's actually on Sunday, and then I have a 2-year-old.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, so I'm kind of like in a different realm, which is like sometimes very difficult. But my 17-year-old, he's so with it and he's really supportive, which is like so dope. Right now I actually woke him up because my daughter's still up and I'm like, please, can you just stay with her? Because my mom is actually here too. So it
I
is what
mean,
it is
I mean, at least he's holding you down, helping you. Like
all the
that.
time.
That's the plus. Because I have a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, and like my 10-year-old also, he's very helpful. But at a 17-year-old, like it's a lot more help they can give you.
Yeah.
Because But
Yeah,
shout
but
out.
don't get it twisted though. The 17-year-olds, he's all about his video games
Of
and
course. I mean,
teenage stuff. So I gotta let him, that's not his kid, but
right.
he's super helpful.
Cool. That's cool.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty. So thank you for coming on. I think that having a male perspective on this topic is like really important. We often, us as women and as people, we're all always talking about how we see all these red flags in men, and like all these things that when we're starting in relationships, it's like, oh, that's a red flag, and that's a red flag, and that's a red flag. But we don't often talk about, like, or I don't often hear what are the red flags that men see in women when they're first starting a relationship, or like when you first meet someone. And I think that's really interesting because I don't think guys talk about that enough.
Hmm.
And I actually spoke to someone else about it, and he was kind of like, well, because men don't really care about that. Or they often overlook it. So, how do you feel about that? Or like, what are the red flags that you have seen in your past relationships or people that you have met before?
Yeah. That first of all, this is a great topic, and I love how you're digging into the male perspective of it. That's super dope. And shout out to the red flags has become like a thing now, right? Like you see all over everywhere,
Super.
red flags, right? um, I don't think that it's not that men like I don't think that men it's not that we don't see red flags, it's that we just don't really talk about stuff like that. I feel like like we we tend to just talk about like things we don't like, or and a lot of times things that we don't like and we still go with it, which is weird, right? Like we'll be like, oh yeah, she likes him because of this, but let's say she's a choppy, right? She's a gold digger. She's into just people that have money, right? But you still you still go after, like you still go after, even though she's that type of woman, right? So like, I think a lot of times it's just like men just don't really speak about these things because we're not used to having those kind of conversations with each other. You know,
Right.
about red flags, about what behaviors do women do that make us feel uncomfortable. You know, like we don't talk about things like that. You know, like
Right.
so it's difficult. A lot of the red flags that men talk about or that they mention are just very like they're things that are just very like I said, very stereotypical things like, oh, she's a gold digger, oh, she's this, oh, she's that. You know, like it's never anything deep. Like, you know, like you will see a woman's perspective, she'll be like, well, yeah, if he is if he I don't know, something like I don't know, like y'all go deep into things. Like yeah, y'all dig
Very true.
y'all dig deeper into it and y'all have deeper conversations about it than we do. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, like it's not because we don't see red flags or we don't know what they are. I think we just don't. Like I said, we don't just speak about them. You know, as far as I go, when it comes to red flags and just people in general, you know, not just women. It's just about like honesty. You know, like how honest. Like there are people that just lie just to lie. You know,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that turns me off about people. You know, if you're somebody that just be honest. You know, like if you can't make it, you can't make it.
Right.
You know, and as somebody who, you know, when I was on the dating scene when I was younger, you know, that was something that I guess was a red flag for me. Like if you were just to lie instead of being straight up, then I'm like, all right, then you already lying to me about something that you didn't even have to lie to me about. Then this isn't gonna go anywhere.
Right.
Uh, you know, it is honesty. You know, and that to me is one thing that's a red flag. But like I said, I'm gonna be honest. As a man, it's not something that I've ever had a conversation with any of my boys about. Yo, or like it's always something like it was always something like very basic, like, oh yeah, I don't know, she might be this. You know, she might she was with this guy, she was with this dude, so I don't know about her. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how she moves. You know, like just like stuff that's not.
Right.
It doesn't say nothing. Like when you think about it, it's not like you're just going by what you think. You're just assuming. You don't even know because you're not even getting to know the person. You just
Right.
and I think a lot, unfortunately, now that so thinking about it, it's because unfortunately us men we don't look at the emotional part of a woman. We're looking more at the physical of a woman. So when you're looking at the physical instead of emotional, you stay away. You don't look at the red flags because to you the red flag is, oh, she looks like this or she looks like that.
Right.
You know, when women like they can be like, oh yeah, he looks good, but is he this way? Is he that way? How is his personality? You know what I'm saying? Like y'all, like I said, y'all go a little deeper into what it is because there's a lot of times when I've heard women be like, yeah, he looks good, but he's arrogant or he's this or he's that, you know, like and they're turned off by it. It could be the best looking dude in the world, but
Definitely.
if he you know like that, and with dudes it's totally different. Like I said, if she looks right, it don't matter what she is. You could be like, yo, she's this, but she looks good. She's my type. So yeah, I think it's part of that. I think it's part of just the fact that unfortunately us men have a lot of work to do and we need to tap into like being a little more you know, looking into the emotional side of women and personality instead of just looking at the physical and looking at what she looks like. You know, what does her soul look like? Well, how is she inside? You know, like before you have kids with her, how do you think she'll be as a mother?
Right.
Um, things, little things like that like I said, men don't think about. You know, I feel it's like, oh yeah, I want her to be my baby mom. She looked great. She looked good.
Right. And is she gonna look like that in 10 years? Right? Because it's true. Now that you said that, it's like it sounds kind of weird, saying it from a man. Like, you sitting around with your boys and you're like, yo, but check out this red flag that I see in this. That shit sounds a little weird. So
Mhm.
like I get that. But that is actually important. I think a lot of people don't speak about that as well. It's like, what kind of mom would this woman be if I end up having a kid with her? And that brings
Mhm.
a lot of problems like in the long run.
Right.
Because then you end up with someone that could be a shitty mom.
Right. And not just that, not just like be that type of mother, but also be like in a sense where like let's say you guys aren't together, right? You have to be with somebody who you can be able to co-parent with, or somebody you're able to, be on the same level with. And unfortunately, like I said, if you don't get to know somebody well enough, you might be with somebody who's very, very petty, or somebody who doesn't want to co-parent, or somebody who wouldn't know how to, what I'm saying, like hold like, oh, if you're not, there's people like that. If you're not with me, then you're not seeing the kid. You're not with me, then like stuff like that. But it's about just getting to know the person you're with. And I think as long as as long as you do that, you might see a red flag along the way. I don't think red flags should stop you from being with somebody, depending on what the red flag is, because everybody's different.
Right.
Everybody has different expectations of what a relationship is. You know, there's certain red flags that obviously are red flags. Abuse, you
Right.
know, domestic violence. Those are the ones you
Not
mess around with,
right.
right?
Those are non-negotiables.
But little red flags, oh, like he or she's a little disorganized. I could be like, all right, maybe maybe as I get to know him, maybe he'll be more organized. He won't be so messy, something like that. Oh, he doesn't know how to cook. She doesn't know how to cook. Oh, maybe as we'll chef it up together and get in the kitchen and we'll be able to cook meals, something like that. So
Right.
I think that there's levels to the red flags, and but us men need to do better when it comes to that.
Yeah,
I'm always gonna go back to that.
I think I think a lot of women, and I'm not gonna let me not say a lot of women, but some conversations that I've had with other women, I think one of the big things that a lot of people are discovering about themselves is that they have like daddy issues. I know some women that were raised without fathers, and that in their dating life has kind of become an issue for them.
Mm,
Because I feel like some women look for a partner that's like their dad, but if you don't know who your dad is, or if you didn't grow up with your father, how
mm.
how do you know what you want?
That's so true and that's so deep. Like I have an episode on my podcast called Daughters, and the main idea of that whole episode is the importance of us as fathers being there with our daughters, but not just in the sense of like, oh, I'm gonna protect her, I have my shotgun ready for her, but how to also be in touch with her emotionally, right? So if my daughter wants to have a conversation with me about a boy or something she's going through, she's open enough to have that conversation with me because she feels comfortable having it with me. Not just like, oh, he hurt my feelings, or I have to find out to somebody else, but like anything, even if something that I might not be able to relate to because I'm a man, but
Right.
she feels open enough to having that conversation with me. So I think it's very true. Like you said, a lot of women don't really know their fathers. Like
Mhm.
even the fathers that were present, because um we need us men need to do a better job of opening up emotionally and being open with our emotions and being emotionally available. And once you're able to do that, then our daughters are able to connect with us on different levels. It's not just because we're not women doesn't mean we can't connect with our daughters emotionally. Of course we can, and it can be a deep connection. But it's up to us to really open that door for it, by having conversations with them and talking to them and just being like, like you could talk to me about anything. In some way you tell your sons like, yo, talk to me
Right.
about your girl, talk to me about this,
Right.
talk to me whatever. I'm right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and but that's a very good point you made about, you want to be with somebody who's your dad, but if you don't really know your dad, then you don't really know who you're gonna be with.
Right. Right. And I mean, I think that some men have just issues like they can't get in touch with themselves emotionally because they're just really afraid of being vulnerable. I think that vulnerability for a lot of people, not just men, and not just men, for people in general, you know, when you're like, especially like in a relationship, like being vulnerable is really scary.
Mm,
And a lot of people don't like to open that doors. And I think that that's why people get into like bad relationships, and relationships end really soon, because the dating scene right now, I don't know what it is, but it's a little funky. I'm married, but I have a few friends that are single, and we have these conversations all the time. They're like, "Yo, it's bad out here."
yeah, yeah.
like,
Nah, it's true. I
like,
hear the same things. You're right. I hear the same things.
yeah. So it's just like I kind of wonder like what has changed, or if anything has changed. I think that people are no longer dealing with a lot of BS that they used to. You get into a relationship and it's just like, well, that's it. Like, you pissed me off, I don't ever want to speak to you again. So where, like, how do you feel about like the evolution of relationships? Like, I come from a family, my parents were together for 28 years before they got divorced.
Mm,
And I grew up with my mom and my dad, and like I've known, like, me and my dad are like glue. Like,
okay,
we are like, that's my guy.
that's what's up.
He just turned 80.
Shout out
Um
to him. Shout out to him.
thank you, thank you. And I see the type of person he was, like, raising me. And I always said that, like, I always wanted to be with someone like him. because he was a hard worker. He was honest. He was like very very passive in his approach to certain things. And I feel like relationships don't really have that nowadays. People are just ready to like pick up and go.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a combination of everything. I feel like we just live in a time right now where everything is very short term. Everything is very quick. Everything is like people don't realize that things take work. Um, and people don't realize that not everybody's like you. So when you're with somebody, right, and you get to know them, like you have to understand there's a totally different person. Like there's another person. Like you can have a whole bunch of things in common.
Right.
Me and you can have a million things in common. We're two different people. Just because we have things in common doesn't mean that if something happens to you, you're gonna react the same way I would react if it happened to me.
Right.
So that means what's lacking to me in relationships is empathy. I feel like lacking in the word that's lacking in a relationship is empathy. It's the understanding that everybody we're two different people, even though we are the same. We may love each other, we may like each other. Like I said, we may have a million things in common, but we're two different people. So I think that instead of having a conversation about it, it's quick as like I'm gonna ghost you or I'm gonna block you. I'm not gonna talk to you. Like the same thing you see a lot happening with cancel culture. Like a lot of that. Like
Hmm.
like instead of just having a conversation about it, like I said, some things are not negotiable. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
someone putting your hands on you, that's not negotiable. That's not something that's a conversation. That's ghost that person, block that person. That person should be X out of your life.
Right.
But like certain things, like if you really like somebody, you feel somebody, and you feel like there's something wrong to you, whatever it may be, have a conversation with them about it. And maybe you can understand why they did it or why it happened, or instead of it just being like, all right, I'm not messing with them no more and blocking them. And I think that's part of the reason what's going on with this society right now. I think everything is just very quick, short term. Everybody's just ready to go on to the next. Um, you see it in every aspect of life. You even see it in music. Songs are 2 minutes and 30
Yeah.
seconds. So songs are 2 minutes long now. Like,
Oh my gosh. It's so funny that you say that because I was looking at someone's album and like their songs were like 2 minutes and like exactly that, like 2 minutes and 50 seconds, 2 minutes. And I'm like, wow, like the culture has really changed. Like the music culture has really changed. It's
mhm.
like 2 minutes. I remember, when I was growing up, I'm not that old, I'm only 37. But back in the day, it's like a song was like 4 or 5 minutes long.
Yeah,
Like
everything. Like
it gave you the
even
meat of the
all right,
song.
even the albums. Albums like like a good amount of songs. Now you got short albums, quick albums. So everything is based on because of everybody just has a very short term. Like um everything is just quick. We live in a quick, fast world. Everything is just quick. There's people that come, there's people that can go. You think about people that are hot 1 minute, the next they're gone. And that's pretty much how people do relationships too. Like it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling her. Yeah, I'm feeling him. 1 week, next week, yeah, I'm still feeling them. Then it's like once the third week comes, month comes, and it's like after 2 months they're tired of the person. Like you know what I'm saying? Like they get tired of them because they feel like
Yeah,
it's like I don't know if they're expecting it, but like what are you doing? Are you also trying to keep it going, or are you just
right.
expecting this person? You're like like so I think it's part of it. I think that's what it is. I think society right now is just very very quick. The online dating thing, which I never had to go through, thank God. like the
Yeah,
whole like
well,
like the whole
I dibbled and
Tinder,
dabbled.
the whole Tinder, and like those type of apps and stuff. Like that's again that's something that's very quick too, right? You're scrolling, you going one way,
And you
you like
swipe,
somebody, you
exactly,
going one way
swipe
if you don't like
left.
somebody, right? And you go on a date with somebody, whether you like them, you don't know what might happen on a date. You might, like it's quick, like it's just stuff that it's not like how it was before. Before, like you have to maybe go somewhere and meet somebody, or you were somewhere just organically at a party or at a restaurant. You met them, got their phone number. You actually called them, talk to
Yeah.
them, have a conversation with them. You got to know them, stay on the phone with them for hours, talk
Oh
to
my
them.
God, yes.
Like it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same way. People don't even talk on the phone anymore. People just text now. Like so.
And
It,
I think that's what's missing, right? People say that, you kind of have to like evolve and like go with the times, but I think that's what's missing. Like the fact that there's not so much like connection. Like everything is a text.
mhm.
Some people, like you said, we don't even talk to people over the phone anymore. Like, and people's attention spans is really short.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I have friends that, when they have been in relationships, one week everything is like all good, and then I'm checking in with them and they're like, "Well, he he took an hour to text me back.
Right, right,
I
right.
don't want to deal with that." And I'm just like, "Okay, it's just an hour. Like people are busy. I get that."
Or did you ask him like what's going on? Are you okay? Like are you like you know what I'm saying? Like maybe he's working, maybe he's dealing with something, maybe he's going through something, maybe she is like maybe she is. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is always like magnified. Like oh, everything. I feel like everything is like if you hang around kids nowadays. Well, you have a 17-year-old, but if you hang around like kids nowadays, like every little thing to them is like oh yeah, this person saw my story. That must mean this. Like on Instagram, this person liked my picture. It must mean that. Like little things you think, like, like little things that you
Yeah,
like, like I don't look at it that way. Like if someone didn't like it, maybe they, like I said, maybe that day they were on Instagram. Maybe that day they
right.
didn't
They
see my
didn't see it.
picture. Maybe that day they didn't see my story. Like but like
Definitely.
every little thing is like a every little thing is made into a big thing. That's how I feel like, and then the big things that you should be focusing about and talking
People
about
are
maybe,
not.
you don't worry about those,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
I
know?
agree. I definitely agree. And like more so like on the relationship aspect of it, like, now that we're talking about that being magnified, like how do you feel? So I don't know if you've ever been in like a toxic relationship, but I have.
Okay.
Like I've been in a few actually. And I always like wondered, hindsight is 2020, right? And after I got out of these relationships, I kind of think back and I'm like, why did I stay so long? Like, do you think that men also stay in toxic relationships? Like, just like, what do you think the reason is for men being like staying in a bad relationship?
Well, I think the part of the reason is because people have this idea where they feel like men don't have the same feelings women do when it comes to insecurities or things like that. So the same reason a woman may want to stay in a relationship, whether it may be because she's insecure about it, she's afraid about, she's afraid about finding somebody else, she doesn't want to lose the person she's with, she don't want to deal with change or whatever. Men have the same exact feelings. Like I think back to when I was younger and I was in a toxic relationship. Um, why I'm like I ask myself even now, older, I'm thinking like why did I stay with this person so long? Like, damn, I wasted time, I wasted years. I'm saying like I
Right.
wasted and I could have just dipped. And I think it's part of it is because like you feel like you may not do any better. Or this is the one, like your insecurities about yourself that you don't even know you're having at that particular moment. But you hold on to those things and those are the things that stop you from maybe moving on. I think that that's definitely what it is. I think people just sometimes don't realize that even though, like I said, since men don't speak about them, people don't realize that men have the same insecurities that women do. We have a lot of them, the same things. When it comes to like I said, change, moving on. Even how we look. Like we
It's
all have this.
something that's just not talked about.
Yeah, we have the same insecurities. Like maybe he doesn't want to leave it because he feels like, yo, if I go with somebody else, this girl may not like how my body looks. The girl I'm with right now likes how is okay with my body looks, because he's not okay with how his body looks. You know what I'm saying? So like that's an insecurity right there. You know what I mean? Or maybe because I don't make enough money, so somebody else don't like me because of the job I have, or like things like that. Am I enough for the next person? Because I feel like I'm not enough for myself. So, but she feels like I'm enough for her. This person I'm with right now. You know what I'm saying? So
Even if the
like,
relationship sucks.
right. So like, I think that happens a lot of times. And like I said, it's something that's not talked about enough. It's stuff that I do talk about a lot on my platform. That's the reason why I talk about things I want to talk about, because especially me being, Dominican man, being Afro Latino, and I feel like it's important for these conversations to come from someone that looks like me, because
Mhm.
because no offense to anybody out there, any other men, like whatever, like a white dude, but like if you know my boy Johnny from the Heights isn't gonna relate to to Kyle from Tennessee who's talking about this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's not
Yes,
gonna
yes, yes.
relate.
Right.
But if you see me that I'm from where you're from, or we may have similar stories, you might be like, oh shit, I can't talk about this with my boys. I can't have a conversation with my girl about something. I can't express how I feel about something. And I think that's really the key to everything, and when it comes to toxic relationships, that's the reason why toxic relationships stays the way they are, because people don't really express how they feel about it.
Because I feel like, in our culture, because, I'm Puerto Rican, but I feel like these kind of things are never really spoken about, like in our homes. Growing up, these, mental health and men's health, and, especially like in our household, the man is the strong, he's the strong one. He can show no weakness. He cries and, oh, él es un zángano, un pendejo. Like, why is he doing that? And it's kind of like messed up, because it's like, we love our culture, but it's like, it's kind of like traumatic, right?
Yeah,
Because then you grow up, speaking from like a woman's perspective, you grow up and it's like it's certain things you don't really want to talk about, and it's damaging to like your relationships as an adult.
most definitely. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like when I first had my kid, my first son, 10 years ago, a lot of that stuff was engraved in my head. The culture, right? Like the culture things I had to keep. I was the man of the house. I had to be this way. And as I got older, I had my daughter, a lot of that stuff has broken down, and I become a lot more open and emotional, even with my children, even talking to them. So to me, it's a beautiful thing when I'm able to tell, like be open, cry in front of my son. We have deep conversations, or with my daughter, right? And then my daughter still says to me whenever something is messed up, "Daddy, you could do it. You're strong." You know what I'm saying? So like it's
That's
all in
so
our
dope.
head. Our kids still think we're strong. We could cry in front of them. They still see us as superheroes because they see the strength in us. They see what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we don't need to
Right.
you don't need to put on this mask, this front, or whatever it is. We could be open, we can cry, we can be vulnerable, emotional, and our kids will still look at us as superheroes because they see the grind. They see what we do, and they see that we're there for them. We love them. We can take care of them. So, um, like it is messed up because then a lot of people hold on, like you said, to the culture, and it is traumatic. Like because now you grow up and you have like you don't know how to handle anything. You don't know how to deal with a lot of things because you're growing up now when you have kids. Kids are emotional because when they're little kids, they grow up. They don't know how to deal with their emotions a lot of times, right? They're
Right.
growing up. So now you as an adult, you don't know how to deal with that because you don't know how to deal with your own emotions.
Right. And it
Right?
and
So
it becomes like a vicious circle.
right. So now then they grow up, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Now they have kids and they don't know how to deal with their kids' emotions. And it just continues going on and on and on and on and on, like over and over again. But like I say, shout out to myself, shout out to my wife. We have been blessed to be able to to just create an environment in our home where we're able to be open with each other, be open with our children, and like I said, our kids look at us like we're superheroes. Like a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of men out there might hear me say this and be like, "Oh, he's soft, or he's that." I ain't soft. Like that's my daughter. She'll tell you how strong I am. You know what I'm saying? She'll tell you how tough I am. My son will tell you how tough I am. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
because listen, I'm from Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn. So when it's time, it's time.
Right.
But when it's time to also break down and talk about certain things, it's all time for that too. We have to be able to balance both of them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying I'm not into getting into no fights, nobody into that street stuff no more because that's in the past. But like, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? But you have to be able to like do like you could
You
you
gotta
could
do
do it
the both.
all, right? We could do it all. Like we could
Yeah.
do it all. You don't have to be the tough guy with the front end. Oh no, I can't cry. I'm too. No.
I'm too
Come on,
street. I'm
bro.
too street.
Right, I'm too
It's
stupid.
it's funny because my husband and I, we talk about that all the time because I was also born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm from East New York, and
Shout out to East New York. Shout out to East New York.
yes, and I always shout out my city. I live in Queens now, but I always shout out Brooklyn. And we talk about that all the time. Like my husband and I, like a healthy balance. You have to have it has to be a balance, like because you can't be all the way one way and then all the like it's somewhere in the middle.
Right.
And sometimes like it's difficult for like men that have these kind of issues to kind of like break down and figure out, okay, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of this and a little bit of that. But I think for some men too, like when they have children, especially daughters, um that's kind of like their soft spot.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And again, I'm not saying this to judge all my brothers out there, you know what I'm saying? Because I've also learned through this journey that I'm on to have empathy and patience for everybody because like I said, everybody's on their own journey, on their own path, and I don't know what anybody has gone through in their life, right? If you're a man and you grew up in a household where it was male dominated or it was very machista type household, I understand why dude don't want to cry. I can understand why dude don't want to have that type of conversation because, bro, you were never taught to have that type of conversation. You were
Mhm.
never put in a position to have that type of conversation. So I totally understand, but it's my responsibility and anybody out there who's capable of having those conversations of then opening up and using their voice to do that, and then start off small with the people closest to you, your boys or your brother, and hopefully then they hear you and they're able to do it with their family members and their brothers. That's what I've been doing. I
Right.
do it with my boys, people close to me. I feel good when I hear my boy say, "Yo, yeah, yo, I spoke to my cousin." Da, da, da. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Right.
to me, that's progress. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Definitely.
that's what we need to do. Because, like I said, if his cousin has kids, that trickles down to his kids, how he's moving, and that's another cycle that'll be broken as
Mhm.
as life goes on.
Definitely. So that is what we are here to do. And I think that your platform is super dope. I've seen a couple of your podcasts, and I think that breaking this traumatic chain is like that's what we need to be at. It's really important progression. We can't change the viejos de ante, right?
Right.
They're already stuck in their ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. But we definitely can, raise our children and their children in a different way so that they can recognize these red flags and they can stay out of these toxic ass relationships and just live and be merry. That's the point.
Right. Like happiness is something that's what we want for everybody. Right? Like you want your kids to be happy, right? I want my kids to be happy. My mom wanted me to be happy. My dad wants me to be like everybody wants everybody to be happy.
Right.
But the thing is like you said, like depending on your life experiences, everybody has a different way of going about the happiness of what happiness is. Right. So for me, happiness is my son and my daughter being themselves, truly 100%, accepting themselves for who they are, and then being themselves anywhere where they go. Right. Like that's who you are. That's who you represent. You represent yourself. And if they like you, cool. If they don't, then you still love yourself and you like yourself and you know who you are as a person. That's my happiness. I love seeing my son being himself wherever he's at. And he's being so sometimes I have something to relax, but like he's still, what I'm saying, but he's still being
He's still a
himself. You know
kid.
what I'm saying? Like even when he's on Instagram live, he's being himself. I let him be yourself. Yeah, I don't
Right.
want to stop him being himself because then what ends up happening is they feel like they can't be themselves. They have to be somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want you to hide who you are. This is who you are. Be yourself. As long as you're not hurting anybody, disrespecting anybody,
Or hurting
be
yourself.
right or hurting yourself, be you 100%. That's my happiness. And like I think about it, I get goosebumps sometimes. I get really emotional about it because I didn't have that going on. Nobody told me, go be you 100%, be you. If somebody would have told me that, I've been ahead of the game, 100 steps
Right.
ahead of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Being
Right.
myself, not having to feel like I have to put on, and that's what it is. That's what makes me happy. It's just, oh, he's like this. That's cool. He's still doing his thing. He's getting straight A's. He's himself. He's happy. My son is happy. You see him walking around. He's a happy kid. That makes me happy. You know what I'm saying? If he's
That's
happy,
dope.
I'm happy.
There you go. And that's what's important. So happiness. That's what we're gonna leave off on this note tonight. Mozo, tell the people where they could find you at. Leave your handles.
Yes, yes. So you can find me on Instagram at underscore the real Mozo. That's my main social media platform. I do have other platforms, but that's the one I'm mainly on. My podcast is also on Apple, Spotify. It's called Watch Your Mouth with Mozo. Like I said, it's on Apple, Spotify. It's also on YouTube. The YouTube channel is Watch Your Mouth with Mozo. And yeah, like I said on the show, my episodes are, they're a little bit about everything. In the beginning when I started my podcast, it was just me talking about, my experiences as a father and as a man. And now I've kind of, evolved the show a little bit into, having guests on and just building community with people that I feel are out there amplifying, their voices in a positive way. And I think that that's really what I'm doing with my platform is just continue the positivity because we know this how this world's moving right now. There's a lot going on, so
It's
I'm just
vicious.
trying my best to just be that light to inspire people and just somebody might see something not just from me from a guest, somebody they may see and it may spark something in them to just do something good in the world. I want to thank you for having me on. I
Thank you
love
for
what you
coming.
I love what you're doing. I see you grinding, and the podcasting community for me is something that's big and huge, because I believe that with the right people, you're able to come together and create something beautiful like this episode right here. It was a strong conversation, and it's all because you reached out to me about having it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and that's what it's all about. It's about collaborating for, like I said, something positive and something good. So shout out to you for what you're doing as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely shout out to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on and giving your experiences. It was super dope. I appreciate you so much. I'm super glad to be part of this community and I'm really glad that we had this conversation tonight. So, you have a good night and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Definitely. Have a good one.
Take care.
Everybody, show love. Love beats. Love beats everything every day, y'all.
That's a fact. Take
Peace.
care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.